Okay, you are being attacked by something. Anyone know what it is? How about you? Do you know what it is? Oh, God! Basil? Basil keys. Wait, no, they're not exploding.
The monster's taking
Oh,
me!
now he's gone. All right, everybody get to me. We'll stand in a circle and we'll think, all right? Does anybody remember this monster? Seriously.
The monster returned me! I still have no idea what it
Jimmy
was.
boy, are you okay? What got you? Tell me true.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Oh, God, he doesn't even know what it is. Okay, here's the plan. You guys run away, hit the books, see if you can find anything that describes it. I'm gonna stay here and work this out, okay? Oh, hello. Wait a minute. I remember. It's just a pine cone. Seregios!
Seregios, Seregios, Seregios. Everybody's favorite flying psychopathic invader. Although, actually, is it everybody's favorite flying psychopathic invader? Because I believe that Aang can save the world. I believe that Seregios is the forgotten flagship. And the reason I believe that, despite how many of you are probably sat there, stood there, crawling there, yes, those of you that crawl while watching YouTube videos, and going, obviously I know Seregios, he's awesome, he's a flagship, yeah, good times, I love being shredded by his bleeding spales. Spales? I wanted to say spines and scales, and we ended up with spales. But we did a little cheeky video recently where we asked all of you guys your favorite flagship across every single one that has ever existed. And the results came in, and you know where Seregios came? Second to last. Second to last. And look, while that doesn't entirely imply that people have forgotten about him, or that people don't like him, he's just not that many people's absolutely favourite, I still think it is criminal when you consider the only monster with less votes was Rusted Kushala Daora, and nobody likes Windy Bastard, okay? And then on top of that, the insult to injury to poor Seregios is that Rathalos, but now it's blue, is more people's favorite flagship than him. So today, I want to sing his praises, I want to talk his lore, and I want to make a case for his resurgence in Rise. Because look, admittedly, he isn't the oldest of monsters. You know, he was the flagship of 4 Ultimate, and that is, at this point, 4 games ago, if you count Iceborne and World separately, and that's, you know, in Monster Hunter terms, recent-ish. I was still deeply saddened we didn't get him in World and Iceborne, though it somewhat makes sense, because admittedly, Basil, the Mr. B-52 that he is very Seregios-like. A flying invader that launches scales at you that do something. But where Basil is a tank, Seregios is a rogue. He is agile, he is fast, and he is out to get you. And he has the tools to do it. He is known as the Thousand-Blade Wyvern. And that's not really an exaggeration. He is coated in scales that can stand on end, their edges razor sharp, and to touch him is to touch death itself. His whole head can go from completely calm, and then, without warning, well, it goes full pinecone mode, with the scales a-shaking like the aggression of a rattlesnake's tail, and it is one hell of an intimidating display. Similarly, across his wings, he has got them there, on his tail, on his feet. He really is a big believer in, I want every part of me to be able to stab every part of you. And stab he does, and bleed cause he does. Because not only does he have them as a defensive measure, well, he can launch them at you with deadly speed and precision. Little darts of steel-like shell careening through the air to pierce flesh and armor alike, as they cause gaping open wounds. He really is an effective predator and a supreme hunter of hunters. And indeed, that doesn't just mean hunters as in us, it means hunters as in other very powerful monsters, at least relatively. He can outfly an Azure Rathalos, which is no mean feat. They are aerial masters, but Seregios even more. He is arguably the most agile creature to take to the skies in Monster Hunter. The speed at which he can maneuver is just ridiculous. His philosophy is go absolutely mental before they can react. He gives Astalos a run for his money when it comes to fast-flying agile psychopaths, and which one of them would actually win in aerial combat would be a very interesting bout indeed. But needless to say, Seregios is built for the air, he is built for speed, and he is built more than anything for agility. Quick changes of direction and very sudden diving strikes with his feet and bladed horn. And while his bladed horn is pretty cool, he essentially has a sword on top of his head, his feet are the fascinating thing, because he has very unique feet amongst monsters. Indeed, he has the feet of a parrot. That is to say, he has zygodactyly feet, assuming I pronounced that correctly, which means he's got 2 at the front toesies and 2 at the back toesies, which means they can come together like a claw machine and grab things. This makes them much more usable than, normal wyvern feet, and gives him a lot more options. For example, using another dead Seregios as ranged weaponry. How cool is that? See? And the thing is, he has more in common with parrots because he, like them, will go absolutely crazy attacky on anything that exists nearby. If you don't like me, bitch, fight me, bitch. Though in his case, he is a lot more effective and, well, potently terrifying. Seregios then are all about territory and controlling as much of it as possible. The bigger the Seregios, the more territory it does indeed control, and it gains this territory by arriving at a place going, I like it, and then kicking out every other monster/threat that it can find there, including other Seregios if it can best them in combat, and a Seregios on Seregios is a bloody grim affair indeed. They are furious, they are violent, they do not stop until someone in the fight is dead, even if that is them. And then once the territory has been acquired, it will scatter its bladed scales to let other people know that you do not enter here unless you want to have those scales placed firmly but fairly within your body. And this would have been a really cool thing to see in Monster Hunter World going forward, because it would be a nice little track to find, have them actually embedded in various walls, floors, and small monsters. And the thing is, Seregios, as I alluded to, aren't fans of each other. In fact, that was one of the big story points of 4 Ultimate, and it's why Seregios was an invader. They come from quite a far away land. Indeed, that's why a lot of people assume they may crop up in World or Iceborne, as that land could have been the New World. But as it turns out, it wasn't. So where is this land? Where are they native to? Could it be this mysterious new locale in Rise? Ooh. But before we get to that, the reason the Seregios swarm started invading is they got displaced. Seregios, as I said, will attack each other for territory, and they'll go one step further, they're a fan of a spot of cannibalism. And when there is one big bad Seregios, the others get out of there. See, like a great white shark, when it smells the blood of its kin, will completely desert the seas for miles around to protect itself. Seregios are similar. We have the case of Gormagala, the frenzy virus, infecting monsters, turning him into rampant mindless killing machines for days until exhaustion takes them along with the virus and they collapse dead as a free meal for Mr. Magala. But sometimes a monster with a strong enough spirit will master the virus, gain its strength, lose the weaknesses, and become something else entirely, an apex monster. And an apex Seregios Seregios, huge and colossally powerful, was what was created. And basically, if I had to sum up how it interacted with the other Seregios, it would be...
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me, I'ma just grab my stuff and leave.
And thus the invader started invading. More forced to do so, but certainly not against the idea. Imagine a turf war between Basil and Seregios, by the way. One launching bomb scales, the other blade scales. You could have the blade scales hit the bomb scales mid-air and explode them, like that cliche of two projectiles colliding, two bullets crumpling each other mid-flight. That would be absolutely fantastic. But to me, I think that Seregios should really come back in Rise in a big way. I think he should get a subspecies, or a variant, or maybe even a rare species, because, get this, Seregios is the only flagship, apart from Valstrax, which is an Elder Dragon and fairly recent, and Velcana, which is a Elder Dragon and also really recent. But apart from those two, the only flagship to not have an alternate version, to not have something different. He is just pure Seregios. And yeah, you could argue Apex and his place at the end of the story of 4 Ultimate is a big deal, and sure it is, but, you know, it's not a full-on subspecies, and I think he really should get one, and Rise is the perfect place for both that and him. Because of the emphasis on the air, on the climbing, on the exploration, an invader that focuses on stealing territory and attacks intruders would be amazing. You could easily have a Seregios on the map flying around and harassing you up on high mountains as he uses his agility to, well, be an absolute nuisance. You could have having to wirebug up to him to try and take the fight to him in the air and find out just how outmatched you are in that area. I think there is a lot of potential for flying monsters in Rise's wirebug system that we've never seen before. He could really be quite the intimidating fellow. What a way to describe him. Oh, what an intimidating fellow. Ooh. But you know what I mean when it comes to how Rise and its systems interplay. Also, you've got Seregios weapons, which have the unique little gimmick of when you roll, eventually it will sharpen the weapon for you to mimic the blade scales, keeping themselves sharp as they do. Well, you could tie that into the wirebug and have little wirebug jumps, and when you pull yourself with the wirebug dashes also play with the Seregios weapons and sharpen along the path. That could be a lot of fun. But I think the idea of a monster that's all about supreme aerial dominance, be an opponent in a game where the hunters for the first time are really trying to take the air for themselves against the monster, to be knocked down a peg, sent back to Earth as it were, would be lovely. And to see Seregios done in, well, a slightly more advanced way, get his blade scales flying at you with a little bit more creativity, there could be something really cool here. And of course, keep Basil coming and have a Rise Seregios Basil turf war. That would be absolutely fantastic. I think he really is a monster that doesn't just fit the Rise design philosophy, I think he is absolutely perfect for it and would be one hell of an encounter. So that is my case for Steve. He is just glorious, a absolutely insatiable flying wyvern with unique feet amongst all of them that can grab you and not let you go until you are a crushed paste in your armor, flinging out bladed scales at you, being ridiculously fast and agile, dominating the air, appearing everywhere, and he just has so much going for him. He's one of the most unique monsters, made slightly less so by Basil, but he still definitely carves out his place in a way that has not been replicated since, and I don't think ever should be replaced one for one. Just give us Mr. Seregios back and have him rise through the ranks of people's favourite wyvern. Alright guys, let me know what you think. Like if you enjoyed this, subscribe for more. Please consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon.
Rage Gaming with the video float.
But that's all that's really relevant at the mo, but I'm still gonna leave this up so you patrons know that I love you even though the outro's no longer that kinda relevant. But the new one's being worked on and it's gonna be a truly badass song, and don't worry, I won't be doing any rapping.